talking about Dad's Montana.
Yeah, this is going to be a long one. We got a lot to cover. My guess is it'll probably be our longest podcast ever.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm going to give all the details, even ones that don't matter. So I'll have this kind of down on record for when I forget stuff. So where you want to start? Just start at the beginning? Start at the beginning and go day from day?
Yeah.
All right. Well, recap is I pulled a big game combo tag for Montana, and that is elk or a deer. So it's an elk tag and a deer tag. Deer tag depends on the unit, right? I realize this, every unit is different, right? So certain units, you could shoot a whitetail buck, whitetail doe, mule deer buck, mule deer doe, right? Certain units actually with an elk tag, you can shoot an antlerless elk but most units are brow tine bull elk, which means they have to have the forks coming out the front. So anyway, I guess we'll start with I left on Wednesday, October 22nd. No, I didn't leave on Thursday. It's Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. I left on a Wednesday. I went from Jackson to just north of Amarillo, Texas that day. I was delayed about 3 or 4 hours. Dallas, had to drive through Dallas. That traffic delayed me a whole bunch.
Didn't you stop at Buc-ee's and didn't get to the other side until you were at Buc-ee's at like 10:30?
Yeah, I was at Buc-ee's at like 10:30 or 11, which is in Terrell, Texas, I believe. And it took me the better half of 3.5 hours to get on the other side of Dallas. So I got really delayed. But I was only going from Jackson to north of Amarillo. But it was an 11-hour trip turned into like 14 or something.
Didn't you stay at
Lake Meredith? I did. Great little camping ground if you're ever North Texas and need to camp. Camped there, slept great, woke up early, hit the road, and hit New Mexico. Actually caught traffic in Albuquerque. So day 2 plan was to get from North Texas to kind of centralish Utah. My goal was to get to Provo, and I took the long way, which means I wanted to sightsee. I've never driven through Utah and Idaho. So, and I was going to Missoula area, which is kind of the west part of Montana. So I was like, let me take the scenic route. So the plan was Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and then Texas, New Mexico, Utah, and then Utah, Idaho, Montana. So I set off. I actually hit about an hour or so of traffic in New Mexico, maybe more. I actually caught this one a little bit. I sat in a little bit, but then I needed gas, so I got gas and saw that the interstate was at standstill. So ended up looking at some maps, detoured, drove kind of in the middle of nowhere, and caught the interstate about 15 miles down and got to rolling. Pretty uneventful until I got to like North New Mexico. I was at like 7,200 feet driving on the interstate, and I was watching driving in some rain, and I started looking at lightning was striking all around. And I was actually looking out the window, and I could watch lightning come out of the sky and hit the ground 500 yards to my right in the middle of a field, and you'd watch it hit the ground and the big like fireball come up and then it'd go back up. I probably saw that 2 or 3 times. Saw a bunch of lightning, and I actually marked a pin for maybe possible elk hunt, some public land I saw in North New Mexico. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, an absolute torrential hailstorm just let loose. And it sounded like my truck was about to just fall to pieces because hell was hitting the windshield and everything. And I haven't driven through that many hailstorms, but this old guy passed me in an old truck pulling a trailer, and saw he was from New Mexico and he was in front of me. So I kind of figured I would just do whatever that guy did. So he just slowed down, put his flashers on, and kept driving. So I did the same thing. And we were way up there, and probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it was gone. But it was crazy loud for a minute.
How big were the ice thingies?
Honestly, probably pea size. It wasn't that large, maybe a little bit bigger, but it sounded like it was a basketball hitting my truck. It was just so much of it. But drove through that, and then actually, when you're driving, you actually go through just a little sliver of Colorado, like the southwest corner of Colorado. And I'm coming in, and it's kind of one of those things where you come up over a big hill, and it's just highway as far as you can see. And it's like land on either side. And as I top this big hill and look, and highways as far as I can see. I look at something like, "What is that?" And it's just this massive wall, and it took me a second to realize it was a massive wall of dust. It was a dust storm as high as you could see, and I was watching it just move from my left to my right, and again, I was like, "Well, there's cars in front of me, I'll just do what they do." We just drove through it. I've never driven through a dust storm before, but it was dust as high as you couldn't see past it, and, drove through that for probably 8 miles, and then I've never been in the southwest portion of Colorado, but it looks like Mars, it looks like another planet. There's 0 life. It's very different looking, and it's like desert with rocks and stuff, but it when we came out of this dust cloud, that's where I was, and it looked like I had driven in another planet. It was weird, and, and then when you get into Colorado a little bit, it's actually real pretty. A lot of grass, a lot of greenery, trees and stuff, but cut over, just kinda clipped Colorado, cut into Utah, drove through Utah. Really kinda got into Utah. It started getting dark. Drove through Moab for the first time. I've always heard about it and seen it a bunch. I'm like off-road and stuff, but that's actually a trendy little city. It felt very much like a bougie little ski city. There were people everywhere. It was raining, and there were people everywhere walking up and down the streets, crazy expensive side-by-sides running around. You know,
Any spiders?
no, it was raining. I didn't see any, but everything's real dark out west and even Utah. So I get through Moab, and I was trying to make it to Provo, and I just got real tired. So I ended up catching a hotel in Green River, Utah, and found some food. Woke up the next day, peeled out, and I made it from. I went through Green River, and that was actually a beautiful drive. I'm glad because I got to see a lot more of Utah. Really pretty country. Stopped at Shields and Provo. That's always fun. Little break. Or I say Provo, it's north of Provo, Utah. Messed around at Shields for a minute. I don't know if I bought anything or not. Maybe I did. May have bought another box of bullets. I feel like I bought something else. But anyway, hightailed it. Got through.
Did you buy the Yeti?
No. Got through Utah, hit Idaho, and Idaho is very much a farming. I'm always thinking of Idaho as like the mountains, but drove through a lot of the farmland, and then got into the mountains. Kind of that north part of Idaho was real nice. Started marking some spots on Onyx for that. Got into Montana. So this would have been day 3, right? Yeah. So I went from Utah to Idaho to Montana and found some really pretty spots in Montana. I started laying Onyx pins for. My goal was to get to Missoula, and it got pretty dark. And I got to Missoula, and I was rolling in. And as I was rolling into Missoula, actually, that Zach Top song came on that talks about somewhere outside of Missoula. So that was pretty fun. And I went to my camping spot, place we've stayed before.
Casey's?
No, I'm way further west. That spot we stayed on the river outside of Missoula. So I got to my camping spot there. It was pitch black. It was dark. It's probably 9, 10. Popped the tent, went to sleep, and opening day elk season was the next day. But some crazy wind rolled through. Woke me up actually at 1:30 probably in the morning. I don't really wake up. It sounded like a jet fighter. I've never heard anything that loud in my life. Times 100. And it just, whoa. It honestly sounded like a jet plane was flying over me. But it was just actually the wind just ripping through the canyons. And I looked at the tent was fine. There's no issues. And I went back to sleep. I was snug as a bug in there, my air mattress, and I had the insulation in the tent. There's an iCamper on top of my truck, and it's got an insulation layer I put in. I slept like a baby. And then so Saturday morning was actually opening day of rifle season. So my buddy Ryan lives up there. We actually met up for breakfast, had breakfast, and he actually took me to a gun range because I wanted to get some data on my gun, make sure it was zeroed for the elevation up there. So I actually got the chrono data on it. And first 2 shots were touching at 100 yards. Felt good about it. Got all that data, put it in all my apps and everything because my rangefinder, gives me the dope and all this stuff. So
to me, it's pretty fancy.
It is fancy. It's a geoballistics rangefinder that takes in temperature, pressure, all that stuff, angles to give you the right dope. So, but I wanted I wanted to make sure that was right. And then, so as I was doing that, I was texting with another buddy, Braden, and he had a buddy in town who had never elk hunted before. Joe, are we back? Yeah, we're back. Sorry, technical difficulties. There's going to be an odd gap. As we were in the middle of recording, I realized I didn't plug the microphones in.
Yeah.
So everything you heard was actually just off of my phone. Then when I plugged the microphones in, they weren't on. So there's this odd gap. And just, it's going to be what it is because I was 12 minutes in and I'm not restarting. So I hope the audio is good because we haven't really gotten anything great yet. So pick up while I was at the range, I was texting with my buddy Braden, and he was taking his friend out, Austin. Austin pulled his first elk tag. He's from Kentucky. He's never been out there. I think they played baseball together in college.
College?
Yeah. So I was like, hey, so, if y'all go walk around, let me know. I'll come walk around with you. He sends me a pin, and I was like, all right, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Well, an hour and 15 minutes later, I get there, mainly because I was kind of going by miles away, but I didn't factor in the 40-minute drive up the mountain switchbacks. And so I get to the trailhead. It is 5,900 feet, I think, in elevation at the trailhead.
Wow.
And so I'm feeling good. My pack's all loaded down because really I just threw everything in there I might need. And I was trying to get up with them, so I really didn't take anything out. Just threw my pack on and started walking. I had my gun and just trying to get to this Onyx pin to meet them. And it's a logging road. So I'm like, great. Yeah, I'm walking down the logging road. I'm probably a mile and a half, 2 miles in. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel pretty good. And, Braden texts me. He's like, yeah, we're right on the road. We got a nice fire going. You can't miss us. Well, I get to the end of the kind of the logging road and power line. I'm like, hey, where y'all at? He's like, oh, you see that chute to your right? He's like, just go up it. We're right on the road. I was like, oh, okay. And I start climbing this chute, and for me, it felt like Mount Everest. It was as tall as it could be, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes to probably go 700 yards. I mean, and the way we found a better way, it still sucked the next day, but I was going up the main chute to get to where they were, and it was just all deadfall. And so it's like I'm crawling over trees and under trees. And I mean, every step is almost straight up, and it just felt terrible. There was one point I sat down on a stump and I was like, maybe I don't want to kill an elk that bad. Maybe I'll just sit right here and let a grizzly bear eat me. It felt terrible, and I was gasping for air. Like, my legs felt all right, but I'm just sitting there gasping for air. It's the first time I'd been out, and I'm like, I couldn't breathe. It was terrible. Anyway, I finally get there, and I see them, and just because I see them doesn't mean I get there. It's like I can see them, and it's like, oh, they're up there, and it still took me a while to get there, trying to find the best route. It was just absolutely brutal. At that point, I thought that was the worst hike of my life. And I had more after that. But we get there, they're kind of sitting on a little glass knob, kind of overlooking a valley on the other side. And, it was great. I was doing what I came there to do.
It looks easy from the couch, doesn't it?
100% looks easy from the couch. And we're glassing, and we see some whitetail does, maybe a spike, some mule deer does. It's the first time I'd ever seen a mule deer when I was hunting. I've seen them, not when I was hunting. But it was really cool. And then it gets dark and we peel out. But the plan for the next day was to come back to the spot. So I actually just camped at the trailhead, popped the tent on the truck, and they were like, we'll meet you back here in the morning. I was like, great. Well, if we're coming back here, I'm not leaving National Forest. So they peel out, I actually watched somebody drive by with a whole elk gutted out in the back of their truck.
Really?
I think it was a cow. And this particular unit, you couldn't shoot a mule deer. It's draw tag only.
Yeah.
You could shoot a whitetail buck or you can shoot an elk. And so I see that go by, I get the tent all set up, and the weather's supposed to be cold, but I didn't think much of it. And so I'm sitting there, and as soon as everybody leaves, the wind starts ripping, starts to rain a little bit. And I'm like, man, it's really raining out there. So, like, the rain's ripping. Next thing I know, I look, and I got actually water dripping in my tent.
Huh.
And, I knew about it when I was getting everything ready. My camper I've had for a long time, and it's a canvas tent, but it's got a rain fly on it. And the tent actually has a skylight, so I guess if you're out and you wanna, like, open the top and see the stars, you can.
Mhm.
Well, the rain fly actually has a clear piece of plastic on the skylight. Well, over the years of it being on my truck and whatnot, apparently that plastic has deteriorated,
Huh.
and it was letting rain drip through the zipper, and it was coming in pretty good. And I'm always prepared, or try to be, and I knew I had a blue tarp in my kind of whatever I might need drawer in my truck. So I throw on my rain jacket, I get out there, and it's just dumping rain, and I get soaking wet, and I get this tarp rigged up over the tent, and the rain stops. But by the time I got not no, the rain didn't stop. The rain stopped leaking in my tent. By the time I get in though, like, my sleeping bag's wet, my mattress is wet 'cause I have a blow up mattress. It takes up the whole tent, but it was all on the left side. So I'm like, well, like I said, I'm always prepared. So I go down to my truck and actually get my little sleeping bag, which goes in my backpack. So the right side of my mattress was dry, and I put my mummy bag out and climb in.
Mummy.
Yeah, I climb into that, put a couple things in there to dry while I sleep, and actually I slept like a baby. Once I got all this, I just kind of pushed all the wet stuff to the left, and but everything was wet. Slept like a baby, and I woke up the next morning, and there was snow. It had snowed apparently in the night, so there's snow all over my truck, snow everywhere.
Ah.
It was a good bit of snow for Mississippi boy. Probably nothing for Montana. And I wake up at like 4:35 or something because we were gonna go further back, and so I wake up, get ready. Braden and Austin pull up, and we got everything going. So we get to going on the trail, and we found a better way to go up. It still sucked, still covered in snow, but it was still steep. But we found a way without the deadfall, so it was a little bit better. But I told him, I was like, get to Austin was kind of like me. He was a little bit better than me, but
Meh.
Braden just kind of goes up the mountain.
So Braden is you when we walk, and then you are me when we walk.
I was worse than you for sure. Braden just goes up the mountain like it's nothing. I guess that's what you get for living there and working out all the time. So they're in front of me, and I ended up somehow trying to cut through a certain way and get trapped by a bunch of trees and brush with snow all over it. So I have to backtrack and all this stuff. And we finally get to the glassing point where we were the day before. And Braden was like, well, we're going to go to this other spot. It's up the ridge here. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to sit here for a little bit, watch the sun come up and just kind of see what I can see, and like send me a pin and I'll come meet you. Cause I needed a minute. That was a terrible hike for me. Still gasping for air. And so I sit there, watch the sun come up. I don't see anything. Try to make a little fire. Actually, I call you from that spot.
Oh yeah.
Talk to y'all, collecting limbs. And I sit there for probably an hour or so, right when the light's cracking. Didn't see anything. I had that other pin, so I walk up there and meet them. A really pretty country, kind of at the top of where we were, and then you go back down. And I get there, he's watching some mule deer does, but nothing with horns. And the wind is absolutely ripping. Snow everywhere. I think the high this day was like 31. So it was chilly. And we end up walking down to a spot that we want to glass at where you can see a ton of stuff. And then we stay there all day looking. But we made a fire. Had a great idea to use this big down tree as a windbreak, and the wind changed directions. So we ended up having a little fire that caught the big tree on fire, which was great for being cold. Wasn't so good trying to put it out because that took a minute.
How'd y'all put it out?
Dirt. But this fire got to ripping because we kept it going all day, but it got to where you couldn't get within 4 feet of it. But it was great because we were freezing. And we sat there all day, and it was one of those things like I could see for a long ways, but I wasn't going to make a play on an animal. It was 1,000 yards straight down and up to get to the closest thing, and I could see miles and miles. So we just sat there and glassed and looked and glassed and looked and never saw any more really the mule deer does, some whitetail does, no horns, no elk. And at about 3:30, 4:00, well, no, this was before the time changed. It's about 4:00. Me and Austin were talking about going back to that other spot because if we actually saw something come out there, we could make a play on it and shoot it. Later got where we were at, we were not going to make a play. I could see an elk come out, but in my, as they could say it, flatlander condition, I'm not closing that much distance before shooting light's gone. So we get our stuff and we actually have to gain some elevation to get out of where we're at. And as we're walking back kind of into the timber, Braden spots a big old pile of bear poop. And he was like, that kind of looks like grizzly poop. And then we walked probably 30, 40 more yards. And he's like, yeah, that's a grizzly. And it's massive claw marks on a tree, and the whole tree's been worked, and it's like got the cool claw marks on it and stuff. It was old. But so there was a tree that looked like a grizzly bear had worked it over.
Did you take a picture?
Yeah, I got a picture of that. And then we get back to the spot that we're going to sit. And so we sit there till it's dark. And we see, like, I think a whitetail spike, some does, but not a whole lot of action. And then we hike out in the dark. The way out's always better because it's downhill. And so we do that, and we get back to the trailhead. And me and Austin were talking about hunting Monday together because he didn't really have anybody to go out with. And Monday I didn't either. And so I actually go back and crash at Braden's that night. And we actually eat some deer sausages that I brought because we got back late. It's funny though, because we left at the same time, right? I had to get all my stuff together. My truck had been sitting there, had been snowed on. Well, they peel out and I'm going to follow them. I try to send a text message, but the other part of this is everywhere I'm at, I'm on SOS. So I was letting Braden know, hey, I'm iced up. My windshield is completely iced. And I had to wait for it to defrost. It probably took 20 minutes for me to get moving. And they ended up waiting for me at the bottom of the mountain. But it's like a 30-minute drive down the switchbacks. And I get halfway down the mountain. He's like, are you alive? And my text never went through, apparently. But we get back to his place. We crash, make a plan for the next day. And Brett, who's a big part of my story, Brett Benton,
Yep.
good friend of mine, had sent me pins, and I'm talking to him a whole bunch about kind of where to go. He's like, hey, try this place out, and I'm going to try to do my best not to say the place because I learned up there you never give your pins away. Everybody always wants a spot. So he told me a place to go, and me and Austin peel out the next day and really just kind of wanted to drive around and look and see. So we had a bunch of different pins in kind of one general area, a lot of roads. And so the first pin we picked, gate, get to the gate, get set up, and walk out. Let me backtrack a little bit, though. I learned real quick that all the fun gear that I bought, most of it came out of my bag from Saturday to Sunday. I took all sorts of crap out of my bag. It's like, I don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. Just making that bag lighter. And it was definitely better. So I learned that. I had a bunch of really cool gear. Didn't need 90% of it.
But you did use your ferris rod.
Ferro rod?
Ferro rod. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, did I? No, I carried a lighter in my pocket.
Cheater.
That's not a cheater if you got it. I did use my little fire starters, those little black beard little things.
Yeah.
Those are really nice.
Tinder.
Yeah, but I didn't use the rope. The rope kind of sucked. The rope that you cut and have pieces of, I used the little cotton ball wax things. Those are great. That's actually what got our fire going Sunday. And I ended up using it a few more times. Really good stuff. So anyway, fast forward Monday, me and Austin peel out. And we get to the gate, we want to look around, and we're just kind of walking and looking. We're not taking anything fast. We don't get there before sunlight. Kind of wait till it cracks. And it's just real pretty country. And we're walking and kind of walking and glassing because every 5 feet you walk, you can see something new. So, and I say glass, we're walking, then looking through binos, walking, looking through binos. We get to this one little spot. I'm like, man, this is a really nice spot. Kind of, you can see a lot of open face and a lot of different things. And so I'm like, hey, let's sit here for a bit. And I break out my tripod, which was worth every dollar I paid for it. It's a Peak 44 tripod.
Peak.
Yep, definitely worth it if you're looking for a nice lightweight tripod. Threw the binos up on it and just sat back and glassed for a little bit. And
yeah, he actually used the binos more than the watch some of the
spotter.
spotter.
Only pull the spotter out if I needed to look at something. But yeah, I was in the binos a bunch, and probably 30 minutes, I'm like, hey, I found a mule deer. Austin had walked away to go look at a little different spot. And I'm like, hey, that's actually a decent mule deer buck. And I watch him, and I kind of see the direction he's going. And Austin gets back. I'm like, hey, I got a mule deer buck. And
So you went to another place that you can actually shoot?
Yeah, this is a unit where you can shoot a mule deer buck. And I'm like, hey, I got a mule deer buck. Like, let's go make a play on it. And so we peel off and move in that direction. I did probably the cardinal rule of that you don't want to break. So I get to the bottom of this chute, and I put my bag down because we're about to have to run up a face, and I wanted to be real light and stealthy. So the deer, for lack of, I guess, better explanation, it was moving from my left to right on this kind of big open face, and there's like a lot of little valleys or canyons, or I don't know what they call them, little chutes. So I get a couple chutes over, and we start peeling up, and I'm trying to get on the same level as the deer. He was probably at 4,800 feet. So we climb up, taking our time. I'm like, we should see this deer. I don't see him. And we actually climb up enough chutes that we get to the next logging road, and we don't see the deer. And then we get on there, and we start walking back down to go get my bag. And then like there's another little open face, and I wanted to get up there and look, and we don't see anything there. And so we're walking down the logging road a good little ways. And next thing I know, the mule deer buck jumps out in front of us, probably 25 yards. And then 3 does jump out and a spike jumps out. I'm like, oh my God, they're right here. But it's like they jump out and then they jump off the road. And in my whitetail brain, I'm thinking they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that if I backtracked and got down, I could lose a little elevation and actually see the open face that they were going to go down. So I peel out, got my gun, and I get down to this face, and I'm trying to look for him. And I'd lost a good little bit of elevation trying to go where I thought they were going. And I don't have my phone on loud. Most of the time it's on SOS anyway, but it's probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes go by, and Austin stayed up high. I look, and I got like 3 missed calls from Austin and a text that says, the buck's still here. I'm looking at him 20 yards away. He had hopped 15 feet off the road and just went back to feeding. So I turn around and hightail it back up this elevation that I just lost. And I get to Austin. He's like, they're right here. And so I look, and I pull my gun up, and I see a spike. I'm like, that's not the buck, that's a spike. He's like, no, behind that one. And of course, the buck had to be behind a tree and a big old pile of brush. I'm like, I can't shoot. He's behind I'm not sure, even if I said it, it happened so fast, but he was behind a big old pile of brush. And they turned and went hopping down the mountain, and they were gone. So we actually ended up backtracking to where I was because they finally went down to where I thought they were going to be. And we spent time looking for them and never found them again. So we were like, hey, let's go check out some more spots. So yeah, we were checking out some more spots. And I guess what I should say too is this area we were in, great area. I mean, we had stopped counting like 15 or 20 whitetail or mule deer does.
Seriously?
Yeah, before we ever got to the gate, because we just rode around and checked out a bunch of the area. Actually saw 2 whitetail bucks, a little 6-point, a little 8-point, on our way to the gate. So we're like, hey, let's go see some new country. We kind of felt like we had messed around with this section. So we get to another spot, another pen that Brett gave me, and kind of walked around. And this was definitely a lot thicker because I want to say he was chasing a bear somewhere over in this area. And so I'm like, hey, let's just sit here. We weren't that far in, maybe half a mile in or something, but I could see this big open face and we were in kind of a grassy valley in a bunch of brush.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we sit down and we're glassing, and I'm like, oh, this is a pretty face. And this is a little bit later in the day. And it's kind of like one of those things, you can see what's immediately in front of you, but if you look through the trees, you can see like tops and faces of mountains a lot further away. And so I'll take my binos and kind of look over there, and I'll be darned if I didn't do that one time right as it started snowing, like really snowing, and an elk walked by.
Yeah.
Super fast. And I'm like, oh my God, I just saw an elk. But that hill face was like 2 miles away. And I text Austin because he was sitting a little bit further away from me as we were just kind of glassing. I was like, I just saw an elk. And I was like, I pulled Onyx out and then tried to figure out where he was on the map. I was like, we can go try to make a play on it. So we get in the car and drive on the opposite end of kind of where we thought he was. And we get in there and I say I don't really know if it was a cow or a bull. It felt like a bull because it was massive. It was by itself.
Yeah.
Super dark in the front. But as soon as I saw it, it actually started raining so much that not raining, snowing so much that I couldn't even see that hilltop anymore. Like it was gone. But then it let up. And so we tried to go make a play on that, get in the general area where I thought he may have been. And we never turned it up, but we ended up finding a pretty kind of knob to sit on because it had gotten pretty late. So we rode the last bit of shooting light out there and probably saw 4 or 5 white-tailed deer. And I guess I should back up. Actually, the first place we sat that day was we kind of took a walk and we didn't really sit. We walked, but it was a big open valley between 2 mountains and it had an old homestead in it, which was real cool.
Yeah.
But so that was Monday. A lot of excitement. Got on my first mule deer buck. Saw mule deer. Saw an elk. Saw some whitetail. And so that night, or actually, it's texting Brett. So I was actually going to Montana Knife Company, see Brett and everybody. Yep. So I ended up going to Brett's, crashing with him that night. And Tuesday morning, we woke up and went to MKC. Saw that crew. I checked out their new building. Was there for their team lunch. They had their Halloween costume, got recorded for a vlog.
Yep.
They did. And then about
truck giveaway.
Yeah, I saw them record stuff for their truck giveaway they're doing. And that was really fun. Got to see everybody, chatted with them for a while. And then me and Brett peeled out and went hunting that afternoon. We actually went back to the same spot because like if we're seeing deer, let's go back to that spot. So half a mile from the truck when me and Brett parked, there's a massive bodied forked mule deer.
Really?
Massive. He dwarfed the size of a lot of the ones I saw. Not super deep forks, but like he wasn't like a little bitty fork.
It was literally a 4-point that was bigger than a lot of them that you've seen.
Yeah, he's massive. And
why do 4 points are always the big mule deer?
I don't know, but I could have shot this deer. I mean, he was at 50 yards.
Why'd you not?
I don't know. Me and Brett talked about it, and he was like, I think we can do better than that. He's like, if you lived here, maybe, but like, you've been waiting for this tag. He's like, let's see if we can do better. I was like, all right, I agree with that. So we get out and get going, and actually, we glassed from the same knob I glassed from, and I spotted several deer way up high. And so we're walking, and we actually get to kind of like a fork in the logging road going up the mountain. And actually, Brett's like, there's some mule deer. And ended up being, I think, the group of deer that we kind of jumped the day before.
Uh-huh.
And we're trying to get up close to them. And actually, I'm end up putting my bag down, like right by us, right? And I'm laying prone. I get to a point where I can lay prone in the road because there was a buck in there that I would have shot. But it's weird, like you're on the road, but everything's above you and you can't really see, right?
Yeah.
And Brett does something where they actually went away. But then he pulled out a fawn call, hit it, and all the mule deer came back in.
Nah.
And the buck came in, stood behind a tree.
Nah.
And I'm like, I don't know if that's the deer or not. He's behind a tree, and it's about 160 yards. And anyway, it didn't work out, and they ended up moving on down the mountain. Moving. And it ended up being, I think it's probably the 3x3 that I saw, and then a spike. And Brett actually relocates them. We figure out where they're going, and we relocate them through the trees, get after them. And we end up climbing up to like 5,000 feet.
Wow.
And, the lesson that Brett was telling me is like, even when you think you're done, he's like, never be done. There could always be something. And we're kind of like, all right, well, I told, that was early on. Well, action had kind of died down. We had not relocated these deer, didn't have a shot. And we're kind of walking and kind of getting to the end of where we're going to get. And I'm like, hey, let's up here. Like, I want to snack some water, rearrange some stuff. He had found some bear poop in the road. So we're talking about it, and we kind of let our guard down. And shortly, right after that, he's like, Dustin, get your gun and shoot. There's a mule deer to our left. I'm like, where? I don't see it. And there's a mule deer about 15 yards off the road. And I never saw it. It was in some super thick stuff. This is like high, thick timber stuff. And so we go barreling down the side of the face after this thing. And I'm like, I can see its butt through the trees, and it's probably 180 yards. I'm like, I can't take that shot. And so we keep barreling down, trying to find it, and I never find it. We got into plenty of deer. I think that day we ended up seeing a total of like 5 or 6 bucks.
Wow.
Probably wanted to shoot 1 or 2 of them. Rest of them, pass on. And so that was the end of day 2. Not day 2, but day 2 with Brett. No, I'm sorry. Day 1 with Brett. Go back to Brett's, and we're kind of talking about the plan. It's like, hey, there's some other stuff around there that we want to see, but if we're getting into deer, let's kind of keep going back, because the plan kind of turned into a
repeat.
No, like a mule deer hunt, because nobody's seeing elk. The weather was really weird. Like, it was 60 one day.
Which for Montana, I guess, is hot.
It's really warm, and there was no snow. There's no snow lines, because like normally this time of year, he's like, we get to the snow line, we hunt. There was no. I said it snowed, but it's not like Montana snow. Like normally there's a snow line, pushes animals down. It wasn't like that. So that day, I want to say we did like 6.5, 7 miles, like 1,200 something feet. Not too bad. But every day that goes by, I'm feeling better, right? So I hung with Brett through most of this. So the next day we go, we want to push further back in this country. There's some nice basins way back there, a lot higher that we want to see. And so we get out there the next morning and get to going after it. And then weather's moving in. It's like real dark, cloudy. We end up getting pinned up by rain. I get to use my tarp I've had for a couple years. So we put the tarp up because it looks like it's about to absolutely dump on us. And make a little fire, have some lunch. But we end up sitting there for like 2.5 hours.
Does it do a little sprinkle? Does it?
Yeah, it actually, it never poured rain. But like we talked about it, I'd rather be there waiting for this system to move through than it to just absolutely soak us. So we were under that tarp for probably 2.5 hours. But it did rain. The wind was ripping. Once it cleared out, we went a bunch, saw a ton of sign, glassed up some places, but weren't seeing a whole bunch of animals. We really thought the animals were going to pop after the kind of weather system moved through. So, I mean, we found a spot probably where a black bear was living. There was bear crap every 5 feet. It was funny. It was like bear poop, elk poop, mountain lion poop, deer poop within 10 feet of each other. So we cover a lot of ground. We're up higher than we have been. And, just seeing a lot of new country is gorgeous. And then Brett's like, hey, I got a mule deer. He's like, put your bag down, get your gun, let's shoot. And it was beautiful. They were in kind of an open face down below us, yellow grass. Wind was perfect. And I get my gun, and it's like, it even had like a shooting platform. It was like kind of a down tree where a lot of dirt had built up. So you basically had a berm. So I lay down and crawl up. And I mean, the moment I grab my gun, the buck feeds off into the timber. And I'm like, I see the doe, and like we stay there. And the buck never fed back. We even tried to make a little play on it. It just disappeared. And we kept going. That was the only deer we saw all day. We covered 10.5 miles, like 1,500 plus feet or something, but never saw any other animals that day. Long day, but I felt good because I hung in there. I was feeling better. I was still hurting all over, but definitely feeling better. So that would have been Wednesday, right?
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah. And so Thursday, Brett's going back to work because actually MKC let him take off a couple of days to come hunt with me, which was really cool. And
because he's special.
Yeah. And so Thursday, the plan is to go kind of in the same general area, but I was going to go back there by myself, hike into another basin that we wanted to go see. But I was kind of taking my time. I waited for the sun to come up because it was new country. I was going to kind of hunt my way in, set it up. It's glass, whatever. I get to the gate and I'm like, hear this crazy noise in my truck.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, over my truck, and I know what it is. The idler pulley is making all sorts of screaming noise, and it was wobbling. And I was like, man, that's not good. So that last thing I wanted to...
Didn't you say it was perfect too? Hardy was
No,
I
didn't.
That wasn't the day?
My idler pulley went out. So, and it's making all sorts of noise. So I'm like, I'm gonna get back to town while I can, and limped the Tundra back into the closest town because I was an hour and 15 minutes probably from town.
Yeah.
And I get back to close to town and pull over in a Catholic church parking lot, and my truck is just making all sorts of hellacious noise. So I call Brett or text Brett to see if he knows of any places because I'm like, I can fix this in a parking lot, but it's cold. Like it's still chilly. And an idler pulley on a Tundra, it still isn't like it is on a Chevy. For whatever reason, they made it way too complicated. You have to take off some radiator hoses and maybe the thermostat, depending on how you do it, and the timing belt cover. You have to take a lot of crap off, right? So I'm like, let me see if I can find a shop to do it. And I'm asking about shops, and I just start calling around, and a lot of places are like, well, I can get you next week. And I'm like, no, I'm 2,500 miles from the house, hunting, kind of need this going. So I finally found one shop that's like, yeah, we can do it tomorrow. And I asked my buddy Ron about it. He's like, yeah, they're good people. So I'm like, all right. So it's like 7 miles. And I'm like, at this point, like my truck's making so much noise, I don't know if the belt's about to fall off.
Yeah.
Or I say fall off, like the pulley's going to give and the belt's going to come off. I'm like, I don't really have a choice. So I limp over to the auto shop, make it great, drop my truck off, get not most of my stuff. I get all the nice stuff out of my truck. Brett actually comes and picks me up, and I get a hotel for a couple nights. And get to the hotel and just kind of have to hunker down and wait. So I actually go to a little pizza shop I can walk to.
Pizzeria.
And watch the World Series.
Which I didn't even know was happening.
Yeah, get back to the hotel and wait. It's Friday. This would be Friday now. They told me to be ready Friday. And I call them at like 12. They're like, yeah, it's definitely the idler pulley or tensioner pulley, whatever you want to call it. But we haven't gotten to it yet. I'm like, all right, well, I just want to make sure it's still going to get done today because, like, kind of need my truck. And if you're not going to do it today, like, I'll get it and fix it this weekend somehow. And I'm just like, but I'm not mean about it because, like, I don't really have, I don't have any leverage, right? And then at like 2:30, 3 o'clock, they actually call me like, hey, we just want to check and make sure you still want this fixed. And I'm like, yeah, I want it fixed. I called you at 12 to see if it was done. Like, I'm waiting on you. They're like, all right, well, he's working on it now and we'll have it today. And they closed at 6.
You knew.
I know. Well, I don't hear from them, but about 5, I catch an Uber over there because I'm like, I want to be there when my truck's ready. So they ended up getting it done, and it looked like the original tensioner pulley. Normally, when we do the timing belts, we replace those, but it looked like the factory OEM tensioner pulley, which means it had 273,000 miles on it because
wow,
Dave rolled 270,000 in Wyoming.
Yeah, we named the truck
Not Wyoming,
Dave.
Utah. Yes, named after a buddy of mine who used to own it that passed away. But they got it done, got my truck fixed, probably 5, 6 o'clock on a Friday. So I get all my stuff together and hang out at the hotel that night. Go back. I lived at this pizza place and went back there, watched the other game of the World Series, I think. And
Shohei Ohtani dominated.
I don't know about that, but yeah, he did well.
Yeah, 3 home runs, 3 for 3.
So the plan, well, I'm not worried about that. The plan was to actually meet up with Brett and his wife, Jessica, the next day, and I was going to go hunt with them. Well, that night I get a text from Brett, a picture of some elk video. Actually, he had gone out Friday night on a little hike with the dog to look at some new country close to his house and stumbled up on a legal shooter bull and some elk. And so we really debate on back and forth, like what spot should we go to? At the end of the day, we decided to go make a play to see if these elk were still there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm in. So I meet him at his house in the morning. We go to this new place and get in there right at light. And as soon as we pull up at the gate, probably 5 minutes later, somebody else pulls up to the gate. It's like, hey, where y'all going? And Brett, was like, you kind of have to stand your ground. Told him where we were going. So they end up going to another gate. He's like, yeah, they probably know those elk are in here. And we get there first light, kind of on a power line, and we look, and Brett's like, I have the elk. But they're like 1.5 miles away. And 1.5 miles is a lot of ground to cover. And this is really interesting. Like the way it is out there, this particular place, we were on public, but there was private integrated. And so, we're walking, we see the elk, and we're like, let's go make a play for him. So we peel off, and it's pretty much all downhill. But the problem is,
good for you.
Yeah, but then you got to get out of there. The problem is like there's a nice road, but the road is back and forth on private, so you have to go through some real junk. And by the time we get there, the elk had fed off; they weren't there. And actually, we hear a shot, so we don't know if they actually fed onto private and got shot. But we walk around, try to locate them, can't locate them. And this was me, Brett, and Zelda, his German Shepherd, who is unbelievable in the mountains. Really fun to hunt with.
And really, really cute.
Yeah, she's a sweet dog. And so we don't locate the elk, and we kind of hang around a little bit. But the plan was to actually get out of there. We were either going to sit all day and see if they came back, or get out of there and go grab Jess and go hunt with her. So we opted to go hike out of there and grab Jess and go somewhere else. And that was the worst hike of my life.
So y'all actually hunted with Zelda?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She went out with us. He's got her trained on silent commands.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool.
So like she'll get down, won't move. And it's not like we're not hunting with her. She's just along for the ride. Like we're not using her as a hunting dog.
Yeah, I know.
She's just walking the mountains with us, right?
Yeah, like when Brett came to our house, he showed us how Zelda can do the silent stuff. So it was really cool.
Yeah, she done bark at deer. She done chase deer. She's just tagging along with you. So, but this was probably the worst hike of my life. It was 1,500 feet straight up, and had to go through a bunch of buckbrush that was waist high, and you couldn't really use your trekking poles and whatnot. But I was holding in there. At one point, I think we covered like 600 feet of elevation and 400 yards, which is probably not a lot to people from Montana, but for me, that's a lot. But we got out of there. It was brutal, long hike. We got Jess, and we were actually going to go see some new country. Well, as we were riding around to go see the new country, there was a hellacious storm rolling through. So we turned around and went to another spot, walked around, didn't see a whole lot. I actually didn't see any sign of life. But that was, we saw a lot of stuff. It was great. And went back to Brett's, crashed there again. We got a game plan for the next day. We were going to go to the spot that had the big storm roll through. And so, yeah, that's where we went. This would be Sunday, and beautiful new country. Brett had never been there, but we had a lot of pins, and drove through there. We saw a whitetail as soon as we came in.
Buck or doe?
It may have been a spike. And so get to kind of where we want to get. We did a little quick hike looking for some stuff, but we really wanted to drive and see more country. There was like also a fresh burn. But we didn't see anything on the hike. Found this really cool old truck, kind of abandoned.
Really?
Yeah. And
on like a logging truck?
Yeah, like an old logging truck just on the side of the road. Hadn't been tagged since 1998.
Really?
Yeah. And we walked around, saw some really cool stuff. Like, honestly, if you sat there in glass, you probably would see some animals, because there's definitely animals there. A lot of people out in this thing. There were trucks everywhere. And so we just went kind of riding and glassing. And we actually went to the top of the mountain, went over the mountain pass. So high you got up, there's actually snow on the mountain pass. And
really?
Yeah, there was a lot of, because we were 5,500 feet probably, and came over the mountain into the next, I guess, bay range or whatever. And this is where the burn was, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And you could actually see a lot of trees, but it had been burned pretty good. And we spent all day in there driving roads and looking, and we would turn up mule deer does and white-tailed does, and turned up all sorts of does. Saw zero horns, and we spent all day riding through this mountain system looking at stuff. We didn't do a lot of truck glassing. It was just absolutely, the wind was ripping and it was cold, but you could sit on like this one point and look. But we wanted to see country, so we saw a bunch of it, up and down and up and down, and integrated through some private, marked some turkey spots, had some lunch. Anyway, it was a good day, but we didn't see a lot of animals. And so as we were driving out of there, actually way past shooting light, we took another way out, and of course there was a herd of elk on private. No shooters, but just ton of elk, and they were all kind of down in the valley in private. And So that was it. It was a good day. So the next day would be Monday. At this point, I'd been in the woods for 7 days.
Wow.
I was tired. So I kind of took my time Monday, getting up, kind of had a plan. I was going to go back to where I'd been seeing deer because I really wanted a mule deer down.
Yeah.
But kind of the theme of the story was me and Brett started really regretting not shooting that big Forky. But then it's kind of funny. One of those nights we were talking about hats, right? And I'd been wearing this orange MKC hat I have.
This one right here?
Yeah, that one right there. And I don't really like it, to be honest with you, because those unstructured hats don't fit my head well. And I'm like, yeah, I should probably be wearing my Lucky hat, like the one I've killed a lot of animals in. And me and Brett talk, he's like, you always have to wear the Lucky hat, right? And so Monday morning, I woke up and I put my Lucky hat on.
Yeah.
I didn't wear the orange one. I had it on for the 7 days prior. And so I'm going out solo actually for the first time because last time I tried, my truck needed some work. And so I take my time. I get some coffee. I get some breakfast. Get to the trailhead at sunlight. And this is kind of the same area I'd been seeing deer. And this is what you're talking about. I'm driving through this pretty kind of rolling terrain, pine trees. Looks like Turkey Spot to me, right? But Hardy Bottomland's playing, which is, I love that song. And it actually ends pretty much as I'm getting to the gate, which is awesome. And so I get my stuff together and I set out and I'm just hunting real slow, like taking my time looking. I'm not moving fast. And I get this little glassing spot actually that I saw deer at from the first time, Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm like, hey, that's a buck. I'm like, okay, well, it's 2 bucks and they have their nose to the ground and they're running around. I'm like, they actually look like they're chasing or looking for a doe. Nose to the ground, they're back and forth, back and forth. I get the spotter out, actually get a couple videos of them. And I'm like, I'm going to sit here till 11 and then I'll try to get on the same level as them. And then they disappear for probably 10 minutes and then I look up and there's a doe. And then right on her tail is a buck. And then shortly after that, it's another doe and another buck. So I'm like, okay, well, I know they're there. Like, that's the kind of area they're living in. I get my rangefinder out. I'm like, all right, it's about 1,000, 1,100 yards line of sight. And then I pull Onyx out and I'm like, all right.
Onyx? What's Onyx?
Onyx. I get it out and I use their line distance tool to find which ridge they're on. I mark a pin. So 11 comes around and actually let me backtrack. Before I get to the glassing knob, I walk to this big open face to look around. And as soon as I turn around, there's a Forky right there. Mule deer. And it's not the big Forky, it's a little Forky. He may have been 3. He had like 2 little on this side.
Hold on, a mule deer Forky is like only 3?
Well, I called him a Forky, but he may have only had 1 on one side and like a little split on the other side. I'm like, man, it's been a long 7 days. You're legal. But I decided to pass on him. And I just couldn't bring myself to shoot it. And so that's when I glass. Well, so fast forward, I've located the deer. I wait till 11. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here in the glass. By 11 rolls around, I start making my way to get on their level. And I get to probably 700 yards to start working up the face of where I want to get. It has some yellow grass and all this stuff kind of in it. But I find this other spot. I sit down, I eat lunch. And after I eat lunch, I'm just enjoying the day, right? So I slowly start walking. I got about 300 feet of elevation to cover. And I'm just creeping. And it starts snowing a little bit. Right?
Then it starts snowing.
Not there yet. It starts snowing, but I'm kind of just creeping along, gaining a little bit of elevation. I'm on the edge of this open face yellow grass, and it's just constantly going up. And I look up, and I'm like, there's a bedded mule deer. He's 50 yards from me. And I pull my binoculars up, and I look, and it's a spike. And it's kind of, I call it a cow horn, where they kind of come out.
Oh, one of those?
Yeah, and then I look past him, and there's a doe. I'm like, well, I'm in mule deer. And so I just stand there because he's looking at me, but they're not spooked. The wind's in my favor. Like I kind of got, like if the ridge goes straight up, I get to the left side of it and I'm kind of working in up over the ridge because of the wind, right? So they're not spooked. And I stand there for probably 10 minutes of them looking at me. And so they slowly get up and they're feeding off. And one of them, he knows I'm there, right? And he comes around and gets to my right and looks at me. And I don't move. I'm kind of behind a tree, right? And so I'm just watching. And then another Forky comes out, and I watch them kind of feed over the hill from me, and they're out in big open yellow grass. And every time I lose sight of them, I kind of take a few steps, get behind another tree, make sure I got the wind right, take a few steps.
The real ninja.
Yeah, I don't know if you call it that, but I'm real quiet. The ground's real soft, and it's snowing. And I get up real close to kind of the face that I want to get to, and I'm like, I'm gonna pull a whitetail hunter here. I know they're around here. I'm gonna find a tree where I can see this face really well, and I'm gonna sit down. But before I could do all that, the 2 deer that I'd been watching were in the yellow grass feeding.
Huh.
And so I'm standing there, and I probably stand there for 30 minutes. And they kind of feed to me and away from me and down the hill. And every time they kind of lose line of sight, I'd move trees. Well, it is really starting to snow.
It is snowing.
Like so much so that like I'm having trouble seeing 75, 80 yards. And they feed out. So they're gone, right? After they get pretty darn close. And so they're gone. I'm like, this is when I'm like, I'm going to find a tree, right?
Yeah.
And snow is coming down. And I look up at kind of the top of the yellow grass, which is still above me. And there's a deer standing there looking down at me. And I'm like, oh, Lord. I pull out my binoculars. I'm like, that's a shooter buck. And it's just sitting there, and I can barely see it because of the snow. And I'm looking up at it. And I have my backpack on, and I try to see about freehand shooting, and it just wasn't going to work. I had too much weight on my back. I was all sorts of shaky.
Whoa.
So I just stand there, and I'm looking at this deer, and so if I'm looking at him, he moves to my left behind some trees. So I get my backpack off. I try to get to this tree where I can hold it and shoot up, but then I can't see the deer. So I stand up. I kind of see its tail. I get back down on my knees. I'm looking for it. I don't see it. I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, and the snow's coming down. And then I look at one point, and I see the deer. He's looking at me head on, but it's through a bunch of brush, and there's like this little triangle gap that I could shoot through. And like I'm trying to get steady, and I'm not a frontal shot kind of guy. Like
I don't think I've ever heard a story of him actually taking a frontal shot.
No, I've just never done a frontal shot. But it's been a long 7 days, and it's like I'm trying to get to where I can get steady enough to shoot, and this deer is just looking down at me. It's a frontal shot. I got chest cavity and head or kind of the front chest and the head. And I get to where I think the shot's good enough, and I pull a shot off. And that's when it got Western real fast. I don't know if I pulled the shot too soon. I don't know what happened. I shoot, and I lose sight of the deer. So I'm racking one, and as I'm racking one, I see this deer running to my right, and he's running down full speed down the mountain face, right? In this big open yellow grass. And this is where divine intervention comes in. I whip my gun up, and I see him through the scope, and he's, like I said, he's barreling down the mountain full speed. And I just throw my gun up, and I guess instincts take in, and I pull the trigger, and next thing I know, this deer rolls. Just cold. Never ran again. I hit him on a run, full speed down the side of a face, and he rolls. And I rack another one, and I'm taking off because, like, I don't know if I hit him high or whatever. I don't want him to jump back up, so I take off running, and he was done. Right? I mean, he had rolled, and I get to him, and I put one more in him just for a quick ethical kill, and I'm like, holy smokes! I just shot a mule deer. And then I'm like, holy smokes, I just shot a mule deer on the run down the face. And best I can tell is my first shot was so shaky, I actually think I grazed the side of his head. Terrible shot. But is what it is. I was having a hard time seeing him with the snow and all that, but got the mule deer down. This whole day I've been on SOS. And I'm like, all right. And it's just dumping snow on me. And so I actually had service, and I called Brett. He didn't answer. Then he calls me back, and I'm like, dude, I just killed a mule deer. He's like, oh my God. He's like, well, let me see if I can get off and get out there to help you pack it. I'm like, cool, man. I'm like, well, I'm going to just do what I can. Like, I'm going to get to work. And for me, I've never killed an animal where there's predators around like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if like the blood hitting the ground is like a dinner bell. I don't know what it is. So I don't hear from Brett. I have my phone on loud, but I put it in my pack. My pack's leaning up against a tree because it is snowing, son. And it's really coming in. And so I grab my knives and get to work. And I actually get this whole deer cut up, processed, which, I'm fairly decent with a knife, but cutting a deer up on the side of a hill on the ground, a little bit different of a process. So I do the best I can. Actually, hindsight, I did pretty good because I got all my cuts. Like I had top round, bottom round, eye of round. I had, the back straps, the tenderloins.
The back straps are giant.
Yeah, I was able to get all my cuts. The only issue I had was a little bit of hair on some stuff.
Bit of dirt.
Everything was slick, so I dropped, some things in some dirt. I had all my game bags out, so things that got not covered in dirt, but got some dirt on them went in its own separate game bag. Everything that was super clean went in its own game bags. I actually got the front shoulders out whole. I deboned the rear legs, got all the neck meat. The only thing I didn't get was like rib meat and organs. I got the whole thing cut up before I ever looked at my phone. And when I looked at my phone, Brett was like, I'm 30 minutes out. And so I actually got another little bit of service, called him. He was like, hey, I'm pulling up. I got my stuff. And I was back there a little bit. Like in my eyes, I was way back there, and it was just dumping snow. And apparently a nasty storm had come through Missoula. I was further south and higher up, so the rain was snow. And so they knew it was pretty nasty. But like Josh actually was the one Brett talked to. He was like, yeah, go help Dustin. And definitely grateful for that, because like I didn't know. I'd not heard from Brett, so I didn't know. I had actually gotten all the game bags loaded up, everything. I was like, I'm just going to get out of here. So I had started to pack out the whole deer, and I had game bags hanging on the side of my frame, which actually the initial scent frame and bag is incredible. I don't know. I probably had 125, 140 pounds of deer on me. Plus I had all my gear and the gun, and was starting to walk down the mountain. So yeah, I got all this stuff on my back, and I don't get too far at all, and there appears Brett, kind of like a savior. And because I didn't get a lot of pictures, right? I got some in some video, but it wasn't a whole lot. So Brett actually ended up getting a heavy load, was able to get some pictures of me and the deer head, and it was really gratifying to be able to walk out with Brett, because we had a lot of time in. He had done a lot to try to get me on a mule deer. So even though he wasn't there when I shot it, he definitely was like a little savior coming up the mountain to help me pack this thing out. And it was a great experience, because we got to walk out and really kind of get that enjoyment of the harvest and with the buddies. It's always better with people, right? It's kind of like a nice little cap on our experience to be able to walk out of the woods with a heavy pack. And it was awesome. I mean, got some pictures, got to experience that moment with Brett, and it was just great. We got back to the truck, just happy as can be, loaded that up, got back to his house. He caped out the head for me, which was awesome. And he actually has a nice setup at his house. He actually has a freezer just for hides and skulls.
Seriously?
Yeah. He's got a lot of freezers going on. And so we were able to actually take all of the game bags and let them chill overnight along with the head. And I don't know, it kind of felt like the perfect ending to a trip, even though I didn't get on any elk. I was like, I've been gone for 2 weeks at that point, killed a mule deer. It actually ended up, and it was really cool because, I had the whole experience of having the Hardy song play when I got there that morning. I was by myself. We really got to experience the hunt, stalking, walking, snow.
Stalking and walking.
Yep.
Stalking
cutting
and walking.
it up, getting to pack it out. Big change was I put on my lucky hat that day.
Oh, yeah.
Which is my camo MKC hat, but had it on, got to enjoy the pack out with Brett. So it felt like the ending of my trip, and got back to Brett's, crashed. I woke up the next day, packed all my stuff, and hit the road.
And went to a hotel.
Yeah, I made it to Casper, Wyoming. So I went from Missoula to Casper and started the trip back, and that was it. It was a great trip. I mean, it was incredible. Got to meet and see a lot of people. Can't thank Brett enough for all the time and effort he put in to making that happen. His wife, Jess, was incredible. I mean, ate like a king, bear steaks and, elk steak, and, we had, deer. It was great. It was a great time. It was definitely a trip of a lifetime. Got to see a lot of buddies, and, Braden and Austin were great. Made a new friend in Austin. Got to, Ryan came and we had breakfast and dinner one night. I was supposed to hunt with him one day, but actually my truck was down. and he ended up having to work. He's actually on the highway patrol, so we didn't end up getting hunt. And he was trying to tell me to hang around because he was off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we could go hunt. And I called him. I was like, dude, I think I'm done. I'm tired. I'm 8 days in, gobs of miles down, got a mule deer down. I was like, this feels right. So headed home. And then, so this would be Thursday morning. I think I'm driving through Texas, and Ryan calls me laughing his tail off. He's like, where are you at? I'm like, well, I'm about to come through Dallas, or just came through Dallas. He's like, well, I ended up going out last night and shooting a doe. It was like awesome because he hadn't shot anything in a couple of years. And he's like, so I gutted it and threw it in my truck. And he's like, I went to this piece of private to cut it up that I have permission to hunt on. It's like, I get there first thing this morning and there's 2 shooter bulls in the field. And he's like, I didn't even have my rifle. So hindsight, I probably could have hung around and maybe have shot an elk with him or not, but I felt content either way. And got back late Thursday. And flip side of the story is I've been waiting on the Seekins rifle to come in since February.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a call that it actually was at my FFL for pickup the Wednesday I left.
Yeah.
So I get back late Thursday, and which was great because youth opener Mississippi opened Saturday the 8th. So me and Joe go pick up the new gun on Friday, get it all scoped up and ready. And I'll save the rest of that for our next podcast, which is coming out. But I mean, that was the Montana trip. I think I covered just shy of 6,000 miles in 2.5 weeks or so.
Wow.
Lived in my truck a bunch, lived with, crashed in buddies' places, and just, I mean, overall, I couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, a bull elk would be nice, but it was incredible either way. So what do you think?
I like it.
I've done all the talking here. You got to tell me some things.
Joe's tip of the week?
No, you never really told me what you thought about my trip.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah? That's all you guys think it's cool?
I don't know how you shot the mule deer like that.
Divine intervention. If you lined me up 10 times to do that shot, I probably wouldn't do it again. Wouldn't be able to do it again. But I mean, it was perfect shot too. 0 meat loss. Hit him and rolled him.
Where'd you hit him?
Right behind the shoulder. Exit hole was nice and big. Those 175 grain terminal ascents that I switched to were just primo. If you got a 300 Win Mag, the 175 terminal ascents, I highly recommend. They're great. So yeah,
not the bullets that we used to use, because those things, they would kill nice, but wouldn't leave blood trail.
Yeah, those are the all copper stuff. So anyway, that's the Montana adventure.
The Montana
expedition. But I loved it. That's I really felt I like that way of hunting. I haven't done it before, and I will be doing it again. I also have a new affinity for mule deer. I like those things a whole lot. So yeah, you got any questions?
So how old do you have to be again to hunt in Montana?
Actually, I think they started a mentorship program where you're of age. You just have to be with somebody. It used to be 12, but I think if you're 10, you can do what they call an apprentice hunter.
Well, then next year, I think you might be taking me up there if I draw a tag.
We'll see. Gotta look at that. So yeah, I think that's it. This is our longest podcast ever, but it was a lot to cover. And sorry for the technical interruptions. There were a few pauses. There were mics not working. There were mics came on. Dogs barking where I had to pause and all this kind of stuff. But hopefully it's all there and y'all enjoy it. So we will have we'll probably record another podcast tomorrow. We got a lot to talk about, with the youth season. And we're actually recording this on Veterans Day. So today's Veterans Day.
We made little veteran cards.
Yep. So definitely thanks to all the veterans out there. Reason we get to do all this fun stuff is y'all suit up and take the call. So
yep,
definitely appreciate that. So anything else? I think 74 minutes is long enough.
On Joe's tip of the week.
Sure.
Well, I learned this lesson. Don't shoot when it's dark. Because, when it's like almost illegal shooting light, because that's just because I did that.
I guess that's a teaser for the next podcast. So you'll need to tune in for that. That should drop probably the day after this one. So that's all I got. My voice is tired now.
And now my joke. Why'd chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
Because.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. Not bad. All right. Well, tell them what they need to do.
Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
All right.
Catch you next time.